I had a rough childhood and I forgave my parents, but my childhood still shaped who I am. I'm going to break down a little bit about the ACEs score that was developed, I think, in the 1990s, and what that might mean to you and me if we had somewhat of a traumatic childhood or a neglectful childhood. Now, from my generation, I'm 60, I was born in 1965. If you're tempted to be like, oh, everything was fine, this video doesn't apply to me, we were kind of taught that, you just put up and shut up and your parents did the best they could, all of those things. And it's true. But how you were raised definitely impacts who you are today, positive and negative. And for me, as the daughter of two alcoholics that grew up in a very dysfunctional family, it was life changing to realize about 5 years ago that a lot of the ways I exist in the world, a lot of my coping mechanisms, a lot of my thought processes are because of how I was raised. And they aren't flaws with me. There's not something wrong with me. How I was raised and the environment I was raised in impacted me. Hi, I'm Kim. Thank you for being here. Um, Bobo's with us today. Penny is here too, but he's off camera. Um, so first of all, any of you that are watching this that watched the first one, I'm a little taken aback. I've made quite a few videos. I've kind of stopped and started for the last couple of years, but they've never really gotten any traction. And so I have a bit of a vulnerability hangover because a couple of videos ago, one I did on never being able to retire and starting a new career, kind of took off and a lot of people saw it. And it's fantastic, but it's also the YouTube gurus that I listened to basically said, just make videos. Nobody watches them in the beginning. So no one will probably watch this, but now I'm thinking, oh, somebody may watch this. So anyway, I just am who I am and am going to share what I feel like has been important to me. And if it resonates with you, great. If not, maybe the next one will. These are some of the questions, some of the things that didn't make sense to me really throughout my whole life. And maybe they'll click with you. What's wrong with me? Why can't I finish what I started? I'm smart and capable, but I can't really, I'm not getting ahead. Like I'm being held back somehow. I have picked people that treat me poorly and put up with it. I am tense all the time. If you were to touch my shoulders and neck right now, they're just like one of my kids says, it's like a brick. Um, why don't I finish what I start? I think I already said that one. Why do I feel emotionally shut down a lot? And why do I give up my own needs constantly? In other words, in order to make somebody else feel better, I will, maybe that doesn't even deserve it, I will not think about myself. Saying yes, I guess, is what that translates to a lot when you want to say no. These felt like personal failures to me, flaws in my character. Felt like it wasn't for lack of trying. Like, I would come up with a plan for something and then I just couldn't stick to it. Or like when I first went through college back in the early 80s, I just I didn't do well. I basically and I couldn't focus. I don't know. Anyway, those are the kind of things that have kind of been in the background for me. And the light bulb moment for me came, I don't know, about, like I said, about 5 years ago when I started seeing and hearing about childhood trauma on YouTube, on social media, in articles. And the book, The Body Keeps the Score, came out. And what I have always said about my parents is they did the best they could with what they have or had. And they didn't wake up saying, oh, I want to ruin my kid's life. They didn't just come into parenthood being like, yeah, I just really want to screw up my kids. And I forgave them. And I thought that was that, end of story. what I didn't realize until I started learning about complex trauma, which complex being it's repeated over and over and over and over and over again versus like a one-time trauma, like a car wreck or a violent, being in a violent crime or, something that's really just kind of a one-time, not any less, you know, it impacts you, but childhood trauma when your brain is developing is particularly destructive because it affects how you see the world and how you move in the world and who you are. So, when I started reading about that, it was like, oh, oh, maybe I'm this way for because of my childhood. And some of you may, again, in my generation, be like, well, just, you got to pull yourself up by the bootstraps and, just suck it up, buttercup. Yeah, that's one way to do it, but it was affecting me. It's always affected me. And so the other way to perhaps think of it is what can I do to heal from that? This is not shaming your parents or whoever perhaps was the cause of your trauma. It's take them out of it. How is it affecting me and what can I do about it in order to have a more peaceful, whole, full life going forward? So, forgiveness didn't erase the impact that my dysfunctional childhood had on me. It's deeper than that. And when I realized that my childhood shaped who I am, then the next thing is, what can I do about that? How do I deal with that? Um, and so that set me on a journey of connecting the dots, which has now led me to I am in my last year of my master's degree to become a therapist because if I can help people understand this earlier so that they can have the fruit of becoming whole and just understanding and having empathy for yourself and being more confident in how you move through the world, then that's what like that's that makes me that's worth getting up every morning. So again, this isn't about blame. It's about understanding why and what the impact is, and then what to do with that to lessen the impact. So let me talk about the ACEs study, if you haven't heard of that. And I will. I'm not fancy, and I haven't done links in my description and all of that, but I will find a link for the ACEs questionnaire and you can take that. Basically, it just gives different situations you may have been in when you were a child or exposed to, and then you kind of get a score. And the higher the score, the bigger impact it has on you. And for those of you that may want to poo poo this, there is long term research that shows children with high ACEs scores, which is adverse childhood events, um, have they're at higher risk for physical diseases, they're at higher risk for mental illness, they're at higher risk for substance misuse. This matters. So, this is another reason why just suck it up, buttercup doesn't really serve us well and the people in our life well. It behooves us to understand this so that we can get the help we need and the healing that we need. Um, so, an example of an adverse childhood event may be addiction in the home. It could be domestic violence. It could be multiples of these too. It could be a parent that's incarcerated. It could be neglect. It could be a feeling unseen. In other words, there's no one to witness and like kind of get you through. Hard things happen to kids, but when they have a witness and somebody that can kind of walk them through it, makes a world of difference. Mine was a very angry father that was physically abusive to my mother and his wives after my mother in front of me. And just the chaos of living in getting up and leaving in the middle of the night when they were fighting. And, they would separate and we would go stay with an aunt and enroll in school there. And just crazy stuff. So that's a little bit about ACEs and why it matters. So when you have a high ACEs score, you are more likely to choose an unsafe partner because that feels familiar. You're more likely to people please, which I have a video coming out about that, because that's how you survive. It served you well. You learn how to read the room and do whatever you need to do or not do to stay safe. It causes hypervigilance, which then causes chronic tension. You have difficulty finishing things because you feel overwhelmed and are trying to protect yourself. It's hard to, like, one of the things is I can't watch cartoons or animated movies or, like imaginary kinds of things, even like adult, like Avatar and those kinds of things, Star Wars, none of that, because I was so in the here and now and how do I keep myself safe. None of that appealed to me as a kid, so that's not like nostalgic to me. Like, it's like if it's not real and it can't really happen, I don't want to watch it. And then the other thing would be emotional shutdown. In order to cope, you learn to numb. And for some of us as adults, which happened to my sibling, is numbing to do that, which would be with alcohol or drugs or, other addictive behaviors. So this matters. This matters is what I'm telling you. So I know there's a tendency to be like, well, that's just stirring up trouble. That's just, dragging your parents through the mud. No, it's not. First of all, my parents are passed away. My parents knew how I felt, and I did forgive my parents. But as with my kids, I, I want them to be their best selves. And if that means processing ways that I did not give them what they needed, oh, Bobo, Bobo, do you agree? Oh, then I want them to do that. So if you're afraid of that, that may be a little clue. Okay. So forgiveness is emotional and moral, but the healing is physical and neurological and emotional. Keep going in my notes. I wonder if this should be part 1 and 2. Mm, how many minutes am I at? 13. Mm, yeah, I think I'm going to cap it there. And then in the next video, which I'm going to go ahead and shoot right now, I will talk about why this awareness matters, um, and how, well, of course, I can't go into all of it, but what are some things we can do to start if this is you and you're just realizing this, what are some ways I could point you to starting to get the help you need, especially if you're somebody like me that can't afford therapy. So anyway, thanks for being here. Thanks for listening. I love your comments. I'm trying to work through all of them. Those of you that heard my story in the video a couple videos ago, I work as a nanny, and I've been working a lot, like 35 plus hours a week. I just finished my semester for my graduate classes, and I take 9 hours. So I'm getting ready for Christmas. I have 3 adult kids and a new grandson, and I've been sleeping. So I have not been able to respond to the comments as quickly as I would like, but I so appreciate you all sharing your stories and encouraging me, and you know, just the open communication. So please do that. If you have any questions, leave them down below, and I will see you next time.